The internet just witnessed a widow turn into a wildfire. Joe Rogan thought he could stir the pot, but Erika Kirk just burned down the kitchen. One sentence from Rogan sent shockwaves through America, but her comeback? Oh, that broke the sound barrier. This isn't just gossip anymore. This is a public showdown between free speech and grief itself. So grab your popcorn because Erika Kirk just hit back, and trust me, she didn't miss. The line that started it all. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't a headline moment. It was just one quiet sentence that detonated like a grenade across the internet. Joe Rogan leaned forward, elbows on the desk, the kind of posture he takes when he's about to say something that's going to ruin someone's week. And with that signature mix of calm and chaos, he dropped it. I don't think Erika Kirk is completely innocent. There are things she knows, and she chooses not to. 6 seconds. That's all it took. 6 seconds of silence that felt like an eternity. And then the internet blew up like a pressure cooker without a lid. You could almost hear the collective gasp ripple through comment sections across America. Twitter, or X if you're fancy, caught fire. #Erika Kirk trended in under 10 minutes. #Rogan Knows started climbing like a rocket. People weren't just replaying the clip. They were dissecting it like forensic scientists. What did he mean by not completely innocent? Why did he pause so long? And why, oh why, did his eyes look like he knew something we didn't? The reaction split the internet straight down the middle, like a digital civil war. On one side, Rogan's diehard fans, the self-proclaimed truth seekers. They called it brave. He's the only one with the guts to say it. They posted, to them, Rogan wasn't stirring controversy, he was unmasking it. On the other side, outrage, heartbreak, disbelief. You're attacking a widow, screamed one viral post that hit 3 million views in 12 hours. She just buried her husband, and now you're burying her reputation. Meanwhile, clips from the podcast went viral faster than misinformation at a political rally. Every reaction video on YouTube, every TikTok analysis, every Reddit theory thread had the same headline. Did Joe Rogan just accuse Erika Kirk of knowing something? And in that chaos, no one noticed what Rogan did next. He just sat back, smiled faintly, and moved on to the next topic like he hadn't just shattered the internet. That tiny smirk, that nonchalance, became its own conspiracy. Was it confidence, guilt, or just the trademark Rogan poker face that makes every sentence sound like a riddle wrapped in controversy? And here's the thing, Rogan never clarified. He didn't walk it back. He didn't explain. He just let the world burn. Because that's the power of a whisper from Joe Rogan. It doesn't need context. It just needs a pause long enough for people to fill it with their own imagination. But little did he know, the silence he weaponized was about to come back to haunt him, because 3 days later, Erika Kirk broke hers, and the internet was not ready for what she said. Erika Kirk breaks her silence. 3 days of silence. 3 long, agonizing days where the internet talked about her without her ever speaking back. They painted her as cold, guilty, hiding. Then she posted a video. No lights, no team, no splashy intro. Just a widow in black, camera rolling. She didn't begin with apologies. She began with accusation. You turned my pain into entertainment. It was simple, raw, disarming. Rogan's words echoed in her voice, but the tone was hers, measured, trembling, and sharp. You have no idea what you've unleashed. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was reclaiming her narrative. Every eye online snapped to attention. Candace Owens called it the most courageous public grief I've ever seen. Tucker Carlson reposted it with one line, silence is no longer an option. But Rogan's camp, they called it staged, a PR script. Yet the numbers didn't lie. 50 million views in 24 hours. Overnight, Erika went from a subject to a force. She deconstructed his claim with quiet fire. You talk about the truth, but you never asked me what truth feels like. She busted the myth of her passivity, questioning the power in her silence. Questions don't hurt, indifference does. That one moment, not a breakdown, but a stand, changed everything. The widow had become a warrior, and the war had just begun. But if that was her opening salvo, the next fact is the crossfire. Because when silence becomes a weapon, the world responds in kind. How one deleted post became a viral manifesto. The protest in disguise. The morning after Erika's video dropped, the internet was still smoldering. People were emotional, divided, obsessed. But just when everyone thought the storm had peaked, she hit delete. Every photo of her and Charlie, gone. Wedding smiles, anniversary posts, family tributes, erased like they'd never existed. No captions, no explanations, just digital silence. And then One post, 8 words. When people no longer respect your pain, silence is also a protest. That wasn't just a quote. It was a grenade wrapped in poetry. It wasn't crying for sympathy. It was strategy. A widow refusing to play the internet's favorite sport. Public grieving on command. Within hours, #Erika Speaks was trending worldwide. 10 million shares in 6 hours. People weren't just reposting, they were repenting. Suddenly, the same voices that had mocked her were now asking, did we go too far? But make no mistake, this wasn't weakness. It was her most calculated move yet. By erasing her husband's photos, Erika flipped the narrative. The public wanted a museum of memories. She gave them a mirror instead. A mirror that reflected their cruelty, their addiction to someone else's tears. That's not grief, that's consumption. And she just turned it into a social statement. Journalists called it the quiet revolution. Psychologists called it a trauma response. But her fans, they called it art. Pain rebranded as protest. One deleted gallery became the headline of the week. Her silence screamed louder than Rogan's microphone ever could. And for the first time, people weren't asking, what does she know? They were asking, what have we become? But just when it seemed like Erika had reclaimed control, the story twisted again. Because silence may be power, but in the age of clicks, it's also content. When the silence went viral, the moment the media realized her protest wasn't ending the story, it was writing the next chapter. The 6-minute video that shook the internet just when the world thought Erika Kirk had bowed out for good. She came back swinging. No PR team, no fancy setup, no flattering ring light, just one camera, one widow, and one shot heard across the digital universe. 6 minutes. That's all it took to turn silence into thunder. The video begins in dim light, no music, no filters, just reality. Her eyes red, her voice trembling but sharp enough to cut through static. And then she drops the opening line that turns sympathy into shockwaves. You thought my husband's mission was powerful before. You have no idea what you've unleashed. It wasn't a eulogy, it was a declaration of war against pity, against speculation, against Joe Rogan himself. Every sentence was precision engineered. Every pause hit harder than a headline. When she said, you talk about truth, Joe, but you never asked what the truth is, you could almost feel the comment sections catching fire in real time. The internet froze for 6 minutes. Then it exploded. #Erika Kirk Speaks shot to the top of global trends. 50 million views in 24 hours. Candace Owens called it the most courageous act of grief I've ever seen. Tucker Carlson reposted it with just 4 words. Silence is no longer an option. The irony, her calm voice outperformed Rogan's roar. The widow became the headline, and the podcaster became the question mark. Psychologists called the moment a cultural mirror. They said Erika had rewritten the rules of public mourning, because this wasn't just pain on display, it was control reclaimed. She wasn't crying for mercy, she was teaching a masterclass in emotional strategy. Every frame of that video was a statement. You can't cancel someone who refuses to perform. You can't dissect someone who bleeds on her own terms. And the world listened, not because she shouted, but because she didn't need to. But the story didn't end there, because once the tears dried and the views climbed, a darker question began to haunt everyone watching. Was this raw authenticity or the most brilliant PR move of the decade? The backlash nobody saw coming. The internet's sympathy turned into suspicion, and once again, Erika found herself standing in the crossfire. The internet civil war. If you thought the 6-minute video ended the storm, oh no, it was just the match that lit the battlefield. The moment Erika Kirk hit upload, the internet split like a nation on caffeine. On one side, the freedom of speech warriors, Rogan's army, ready to defend his right to ask questions. On the other, the freedom to grieve squad, millions rallying behind Erika, the widow who just wanted peace and dignity. And in the middle, chaos, pure unfiltered digital chaos. Twitter or X, depending on your level of denial, turned into a full-blown courtroom. Let her grieve versus #she knows trended like dueling battle flags. Comment sections became war zones. Digital trenches where strangers with anime profile pictures shouted context at each other like it was a moral crusade. Candace Owens took the mic first. Again. I don't support attacking a grieving woman, she said in a video that got 10 million views in an hour. Cue the outrage. Rogan fans claim she switched sides, while Erika's defenders hailed her as a truth convert. It was like watching a political campaign where everyone's platform was just, I'm right and you're canceled. Then Tucker Carlson stepped in, because of course he did. He declared, this isn't about Erika or Rogan. This is about the soul of the media age. Translation? Buckle up, America, we've made empathy political. And it didn't stop there. Megyn Kelly dropped her own mic, saying Rogan has the right to speak, but not the right to hurt. Spotify got dragged into the crossfire, accused of monetizing misery. Politicians started tweeting about ethical speech reform. Yes, a podcast feud had officially turned into a national debate about morality, free speech, and grief. Meanwhile, Erika stayed silent, and her silence spoke louder than Rogan's entire Spotify catalog. Some said she was planning a lawsuit, others thought she was just exhausted, but everyone was watching. Every blink, every breath, every absence became a clue in a case that had no rules and no judge. Psychologists went on morning talk shows, dissecting her expressions frame by frame. Notice the micro smile at 2:17. That's repression or resilience. No one knew the difference anymore. Rogan's fans said he's just being honest. Erika's supporters said she's being human. And somewhere in between, the truth drowned in retweets. Because the war wasn't just between Rogan and Erika, it was between us, the audience, the clickers, the sharers, the armchair detectives who turned pain into popcorn. By day 3, social media had become a modern-day gladiator arena, and empathy was the first casualty. But if you think this digital war ended with hashtags, think again, because the next move wasn't made online. It came from Erika herself, and what she did next made even her biggest critics stop scrolling and stare. The widow's gambit. The silence broke, but this time it wasn't a cry for sympathy. It was a move straight out of the playbook of a media strategist who'd learned how to fight fire with composure. When silence becomes a weapon. At first, people thought Erika Kirk's silence meant surrender. They were wrong, dead wrong. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Because while the internet screamed itself hoarse, Erika went dark, and suddenly everyone wanted to hear what she wasn't saying. Think about it. In a world where everyone's yelling for attention, silence is the loudest noise in the room. And Erika, she weaponized it like a master tactician. Her Instagram wiped clean, gone, vanished like she hit delete on her entire past. Her wedding photos removed, her tribute posts gone. All that was left was a single haunting sentence. You can't win when people love to watch you fall. 8 words, no hashtags, no emojis, no context. And yet, it broke the internet because silence plus mystery. That's clickbait in its purest form. CNN called it a quiet act of defiance. Fox News said Erika Kirk strikes back without saying a word. Psychologists were dragged into morning talk shows, analyzing whether her silence meant exhaustion or absolute control. Spoiler alert, it meant both. Rogan stayed quiet too, which only made things worse. 2 people, both silent, controlling an entire country's attention span. It was like watching a chess match where neither player moved a piece. And yet, the world couldn't look away. Fans started treating her silence like a puzzle. Some claimed she was planning a massive tell-all interview, the final blow. Others thought she was plotting legal action. But the real brilliance? She never confirmed anything. She let the public feed on their own speculation. And suddenly, she was in control of the narrative. Within hours, hashtags exploded again. #She will rise versus #Rogan was right. 2 armies fighting over a woman who hadn't said a single word. Memes, edits, fan videos. Erika's face turned from widow to symbol. In silence, she had become the story. And here's the irony. Joe Rogan, the man who built an empire by talking, got outplayed by a woman who said nothing at all. Because silence, when perfectly timed, does what no argument can. It makes people fill in the blanks themselves. And when millions of strangers start writing your story for you, you're no longer the villain, you're the enigma. Erika had flipped the game. She stopped being the subject of pity or suspicion. Now, she was the mystery everyone wanted to solve. Her silence wasn't retreat, it was a trap, and everyone, journalists, influencers, even Rogan's diehards, walked right into it. But if you think Erika's silence was the end of her story, think again, because what came next didn't just shake social media, it exposed how we became part of the problem. The mirror we didn't want to look into, where the Erika Rogan saga stopped being a feud and started being a reflection of us, the audience that turns pain into entertainment and empathy into engagement. 8 words, no hashtags, no emojis, just truth that hit like thunder. Psychologists called it control through silence. Fans called it a digital mic drop. And just when the noise started dying down, came the twist no one saw coming. The reckoning that's coming. You ever feel that uneasy calm before a storm? That eerie moment when the air is too still, too quiet, and you know something's about to hit. That's where the Erika Kirk versus Joe Rogan saga is right now. the silence before the explosion. For weeks, Rogan has been radio silent. No tweets, no clarifications, no, let me explain what I meant. And that silence isn't peace, it's pressure. Because in the court of public opinion, every quiet day is a ticking time bomb. Erika's single post, "You can't win when people love to watch you fall," didn't end the story. It set the timer. Behind the scenes, insiders whisper about lawyers circling, contracts being reviewed, and PR teams running emergency simulations like they're prepping for a hurricane. Why? Because this isn't just gossip anymore. This is reputation warfare, and both sides have everything to lose. Rogan's empire runs on trust. His fans believe he's the guy who says what others won't. But what happens when the crowd starts to question his motives? When even his own audience asks, "Did Joe go too far this time?" That's the first crack in an untouchable brand, and Rogan knows. Once that crack forms, the algorithm doesn't forgive. Meanwhile, Erika has gone from grieving widow to cultural wildfire. Some call her brave, some call her manipulative, but everyone's watching, and that's her new power. She's no longer the background character in someone else's podcast. She's the main event, and she's holding the receipts, emotional ones. This reckoning isn't about lawsuits or statements. It's about who controls the truth and who monetizes it first. The media already smells blood in the water. Headlines like, "Will Erika Kirk sue Joe Rogan?" or "Spotify in crisis" are popping up like popcorn in a microwave. Even late night hosts are cracking jokes, comparing it to a Netflix true crime doc in real time. But here's the kicker, and this is where things get real uncomfortable. The reckoning isn't just coming for them, it's coming for us. Because we clicked, we shared, we argued, we treated real grief like entertainment, and now the internet's favorite game, outrage, has turned into a mirror. We wanted a villain and a hero. We wanted a scandal, and when we got one, we didn't ask if it was fair. We just hit refresh. Rogan once said, "The truth will set you free." But what if the truth's too messy for clicks? What if it's not about who's right, but who's trending? That's the real reckoning. The moment we realize that in this new digital age, truth doesn't win, attention does. And Erika's silence, that's her attention trap. She's made the world wait, and in waiting, we've become addicted to her mystery. When she finally speaks, and she will, it won't just be an interview, it'll be a verdict. Not just on Joe Rogan, not just on Erika Kirk, but on us, the audience that turned a widow's grief into a gladiator match. So buckle up, because this isn't the end of the story, it's the calm before the second storm, and trust me, when that reckoning hits, nobody's walking out unscathed. And that, folks, brings us to the final twist in this saga, the moment where silence, scandal, and strategy collide. The interview the world's waiting for, the one that might finally decide who wins this war, the man with the mic, or the woman who made silence go viral. So here's where we stand, a podcast host who dropped a truth bomb he can't take back, a widow who turned silence into a revolution, and a public that can't decide whether to applaud or apologize. This story isn't just a headline anymore, it's a mirror. And when you look closely enough, you realize this isn't about Joe Rogan versus Erika Kirk, it's about us, the audience that turns outrage into oxygen. Because every view, every comment, every retweet keeps the fire burning. We've become the jury, the judge, and the entertainment all at once. Think about it. In the age of clicks and chaos, truth isn't found, it's manufactured. And somewhere between Rogan's microphone and Erika's silence, the truth got blurred into content. That's the new economy. Emotion, controversy, and control. Everybody's selling something, even grief. But here's the real twist. Maybe Erika's not done talking. Maybe Rogan's not done digging. And maybe, just maybe, the next episode of this digital drama is being written right now by the very people watching it. You. So let's hear it. Do you think Joe Rogan crossed the line, or was he just doing what he always does, asking the forbidden questions? Was Erika's video raw emotion or a carefully crafted response? Drop your thoughts down below, because trust me, this story's not over, and your comment might just become part of the next headline. If you made it this far, hit that like button so the algorithm knows you're not just here for the drama, you're here for the truth. Subscribe for more deep dives where politics meets pop culture and reality hits harder than a Rogan quote. And turn on the bell, because when the next chapter drops, you'll want to be the first to see it unravel. Until then, remember this, in the world of viral scandals, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And right now, Erika Kirk might be playing the smartest game of all.